Machinehead is one of those games that's almost crazy enough to work. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Machinehead is a passable shooter sporting some great tech, but horrendous controls.
Had a problem. To bring the Vorpal blade to its full operational capacity required a sophisticated artificial intelligence.
Nanobots capable of smartly stringing together to form new substances and materials have changed the world. Machinehead opens as these little miracle bots decide to go rogue, systematically devouring the entire planet. Cities ruined and monstrosities born, few humans survive the cyber apocalypse. Two that do happen to survive are doctors Kimberly Stride and Orville McArdle. Stride and McArdle are working in an underground laboratory during the outbreak. Now they look to find a solution to the problem brewing on the surface. McArdle has a plan. He knocks Stride unconscious, undresses her, and straps her into a hovercraft. Without having to worry about setting foot on the ground, while also cutting down on travel time and carrying a full arsenal, Stride becomes an unwilling, scantily clad pawn in the operation. The story is told via cutscenes every few levels. Though they offer a nice break between gameplay segments, there isn't really much of a plot here. The most surprising thing about Machinehead and Kimberly's portrayal is where they originate. Machinehead was released in 1996 by Core Design, just a month after they had released another game titled Tomb Raider. Gameplay quality and styles aside, Machinehead is a fascinating artifact simply because of the radically different heroines created at Core. Only one of them ended up catching on, and it wasn't Kimberly Stride.
Bye-bye, Dr. Stride. It's been a real gas.
Machinehead is a first-person shooter with a twist. You pilot a hovercraft. While it controls similarly to a mech game, the level design is closer to that of a traditional shooter. You are let loose into the level, tasked with finding an elevator or teleporter or destroying a boss creature. There are 4 main areas to the game. The first set of levels takes place above ground in the ruins of society. Zombies, mutants, and infested turrets line the battlefield. The second section takes place predominantly underground in a termite's nest. The third and fourth are set in a mountain pass and virtual reality, respectively. Machinehead is an impressive-looking game for 1996. Though the draw distance isn't very far, the darkness works in the game's favor, creating a nice accent of horror. Explosions, fire effects, gunfire, and textures all look great. Enemies are fully modeled in 3D and animate well. Machinehead may not look like much today, but for an early 3D game, it holds its own. Unfortunately, technical accolades and interesting setting aside, Machinehead has some problems. Drifting about in the hovercraft takes a lot of getting used to. In the game's first section, one can more or less come to grips with controls and sensitivity. The real problem doesn't appear until the second section of the game when navigating tight corridors. As soon as Kimberly comes in contact with a wall, she will try to straighten the craft. It can be infuriating trying to turn or change direction while in a tunnel. It's also very easy to slip off the side of a cliff, plummeting into a pool of acid or water to meet a slow, drawn-out death. The third section of the game is almost unbearable because of its narrow pathways and steep slopes. Flying enemies make combat all the more tiresome. Trying to adjust your aim while simultaneously strafing and balancing on a thin pathway is just insane. Core has included several different control schemes allowing players to more or less pick their poison. Practice and memorization of the different circuits does cut down on frustration over time, however, none of the layouts really do the hovercraft justice. Piloting the hovercraft around in a firefight can feel more like playing pinball, with Kimberly being the ball and the stage being the table. Machinehead would have benefited from a dual analog control scheme if such a thing were available on the Saturn. It's a shame the controls are as sensitive and scattered as they are, because there is a fun game in Machinehead. As mentioned before, the level design is not so different from classic shooters. You'll need to search levels to find keys and open doors, as well as unreality terminals. These terminals, when activated, change the landscape. The levels have, for what it's worth, been designed with the hovercraft in mind, leading to some interesting circuits to run. Levels range in length, averaging at about 5 to 15 minutes once you know what you're doing. There is no saving during missions, thus death means starting back at the level's start. Curiously, there's no save system at all in place on the Saturn. Passwords are the only way to record your progress. With only a handful of weapons and a healthy supply of ammo each stage, it's not as though you are losing much by starting with the default supplies each round. Still, it's a pain to enter a password every time you wish to continue playing. The levels, as well designed as they are, can be quite taxing. Most players will probably only want to do 1 or 2 per sitting.
Guess you think taking out the satellite was pretty darn amusing, huh? Well...
Machinehead tried to be different, and it succeeded. When you're circling about an open battlefield shooting up the opposition, Machinehead can be a lot of fun. When you're trying to walk a tightrope while dodging fire, it's a chore. Though a saving system and dual analog controls could have made the game much less frustrating, lovers of classic shooters will probably find some fun in Machinehead given they put in the practice.